Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up. It is good.
Hooday Bengal fans, here we gather, talking football back for year 5. We're covering all things Hooday Nation. We're glad you joined us here tonight. Special guests, past and present players. You never know who you might see. One thing that's for sure, it's all things Bengals. And it all goes back to charity. We at Talking Football want to thank you for joining us for the show tonight. By the fans, for the fans, until the very end. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to an election night edition, shortened, abbreviated edition of Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're going to go till about 8:30. Got a great guest tonight. I'll let Tom talk about here in a minute. But Tom, we're missing some folks tonight.
Well, they're busy, as you mentioned. It is election night. Jamie is a poll watcher. Somebody needs to break the news to him that it's not an election night in Canada, but he's out watching polls. And James, being the great patriot that he is in Northern Kentucky tonight, helping count ballots. So,
did you say Jamie was pole dancing? What was that again?
Poll watching. He's a
pole watching. My bad. Nobody wants to see Jamie pole dance. I know that.
He's got enough trouble coming back and forth between Canada and the U.S. If he starts doing that, they'll never let him back in. So.
We're already off the rails. Jeez, well, Pete, election night tonight. But let's talk real quick, Tommy. It feels good to get a dub at home. The game was not even as close as the score was at the end of the day. It felt good.
It doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter how you do it. At this point of the season, it's just good to get a win, especially with how things have been going. It just confirms to me that we have the right quarterback. There's nobody else I would rather want quarterbacking the Bengals than Joe Burrow. So he was on it. Hopefully the aggressiveness carries over to Baltimore and a monster game Thursday night. Big
time game. So we are not talking any politics for the next 30 minutes, next 28 minutes, 27 minutes, no politics. We're talking Bengals, good and bad. Tom, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. I'm pretty excited.
One thing we're not going to do politics, but I would like to do, Tony's not with us tonight, pick up the charity baton. A reminder, last game and the next 2 home games, starting with December 1st against the Steelers, please bring a unwrapped toy, a new toy that will be donated to a deserving family, deserving child for this Christmas season. But we will not only have that, it can be new or used. If anybody has an old-fashioned alarm clock, the one that you wind up in the back that's really, really annoyingly loud, we will have a barrel for those. If anybody could please bring one, that will make sure it gets to Jermaine Burton and really from now on probably all the Bengal rookie classes.
And we're gonna have an Uber pick him up at his Banks condo and take him to the stadium 3 minutes away, Tom. So alarm clock and a paid Uber by the fans. We're gonna take care. He will never miss another meeting the rest of the year.
So we'll go to it. But we have a fantastic guest tonight. He used to cover the Bengals for the Inquirer. He's written for the Baltimore Sun. So he's written for one great newspaper and one birdcage liner. But we're really excited to have Mark with us tonight. He's also been on local sports talk radio, both as a personality and a producer. He is a big Bengals fan, native Cincinnatian, and a good person. And, more than anything, as I keep saying, when he wants to impress somebody, he always mentions to him that he's met and knows Mo Egger. So without further ado, to kick us off tonight is Mark Chalifoux. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Mo Egger?
I don't just know Mo Egger. I made Mo Egger. I was his first producer. Nobody would know his name anymore. They wouldn't remember his name.
I remember when you were.
I launched him. that he never would have survived without me. So, he'd be the first person to tell you that too, to credit all of his success to me.
Yeah. I haven't heard that, but I'm definitely going to call him out tonight after we get off here. I'm going to text him a clip of this show. So
absolutely.
Good stuff.
I stand by it.
Tom, go ahead, but get us started, man. Real quick, but everybody that's watching right now in the chat areas, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, type your questions in. Turn off the TV. Don't watch the election. You got all night because I'm probably going to be up till 2:00 in the morning. I got my case of beer up here by the TV and some popcorn. I'll be watching that stuff later. But the next 25 minutes, 24 minutes, let's talk some Bengal football, guys.
Well, Mark, with the frustrations early in the season, and it's always so much worse when you have big expectations. Let's keep the glass half full, at least at the beginning. Going forward, what do you see positive for this team that they can build on for a big run through the rest of November and December and January?
I mean, I think it's important to stay positive now, right? Because if the season does take a turn, there's going to be plenty of time for negativity. So while it's still alive, you got to give it everything you've got. And for me, it starts with the fact that you've got the best player in the league as your quarterback, and you have the best defensive player in the league on your team. So when you've got the best on both sides of the ball, that gives you a chance. You get those guys that can just overtake everybody else. Watching Trey Hendrickson on Sunday was just an absolute delight. Even if he was going against practice squad guys, just watching him destroy them was fun. Now, I wish we had seen a little bit of that against the Eagles. I would have liked to see a little bit more of that, but it was great to see it, and it was great to see just a little bit of momentum, a little bit of fun watching this team. And maybe the most interesting part of it was the fact that Joe Burrow was not having fun. I like the pissed off Joe Burrow coming into this Thursday's game.
Dude, those 5 touchdowns, Mark, 5 damn touchdowns. He's not happy, and I love the attitude.
Yeah, you kind of need that edge for this is such a huge game, and I don't know that Baltimore is quite the team that we thought they were, but they're still a dang good team. And, there's plenty of numbers about going on the road in these Thursday night primetime conference games, but like anything that'll give you a little bit of an edge and help fire the guys up for a huge game. I mean, if they win this one, that's going to reset a lot of these narratives that people have been trotting out for the past few weeks.
Yep.
Absolutely. They can right some wrongs. So, but looking at the team, again, say, instead of the microphone you have tonight, you've got a headset on, you're up in the booth. What would you tell Zach Taylor to do to improve our chances this second half of the season?
That's a great question. I would tell him probably to let somebody else call the plays. I think that might be fun just to see a little bit of that. But, it's hard to fault him too much, right? The offense has been incredible when T is on the field, and for as much as people wanted to attack the rushing game after those first few games, I mean, the offense was working. The offense was not the problem in the first part of this season. So it's tough for me, I guess, to pick too many nits with that. And, on defense, just to kind of lean on your guys, right? Like you just got to lean on some of those vets that are kind of carrying us. I wish we were seeing a little bit more from guys like Miles Murphy right now and DJ right. Turner. I would kind of wish those young guys on rookie deals would flash a little bit more, and it wouldn't be quite the load carried by guys like Trey Hendrickson and Mike Hilton, who had a terrific game. But, you got to lean on your stars and your vets. So they're going to be the ones that have to kind of pave the way for us.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to get that dub, and it felt good to sit in the stadium, Mark. And I was kind of relaxed. I wasn't stressed. We knew we were going to win that game. Even when they scored that touchdown late, I didn't think we were going to lose in any way, shape, or form. It was great. So we're back to 4-5. We got a chance to go in and get a division win on the road. Very tough environment to play in on a Thursday night, a year anniversary after Joe Burrow's injury last year. I was in that stadium last year, and if any team deserves a win in that stadium, any quarterback deserves a win. After the way those fans, a vast majority of those fans treated Joe Burrow after that injury, the comments that were done, the chants that were done, Joe Burrow has got to get it done this week. So, but let's talk about the trade deadline today, Mark. I mean, some positive news, and the numbers are in 100% reported. We have almost 4,000 votes today on a poll. Did the Bengals do enough today before the trade deadline, in their opinion? And it was like 98% of those almost 4,000 votes said no. But we just talked, first of all, with Zach Moss being out, not sure exactly how long it's going to be out, but it's going to be an extended period of time. Tom, we pick up a running back here, and he's a good one. He's something that we're going to need.
He's a little bit. I think he's got a little bit of Chase Brown, but he's also got the toughness. Is not that Chase hasn't been running well through the tackles. He hits those holes really quick, especially last week against that Raiders defensive line. But he's also a guy this guy can break tackles, which is something that hasn't been happening a whole lot with us this year. Right. And, we only sent a 7. I wish we could have sent a 6 or a 5 somewhere and gotten a pass rusher or another veteran cornerback, but that was not the case. And, as the old saying goes, we'll win with what we got.
Yep. Well, I think that's a big message from the front office too, that if you're not getting this defense any help, it's not only Jermaine Burton that's gambling out here at this point, like get the guys some defensive line help or something. But you got to kind of hope that some of those people make a leap. Maybe Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson keep improving because they've shown some flashes lately. And at least it's a little bit different equation than it was in those first few games when everybody on the defensive line was injured, especially in that interior. Like it was just a complete mess. So at least it's not as dire as it had been, I suppose.
Yeah, Mark, you made a great point there. But I mean, I know for a fact it wasn't for a lack of them trying to add some players on the defensive side of the ball. It just didn't work out. I don't know what it was. Price was too high, whatever the situation was. But at this point, you're right. They're counting on these guys, especially 2 rookies, to step up and keep getting better. And they've looked good. They just got to stay healthy. And the other thing that concerns me on the defensive line is, we got pass rush from one guy, and hope Trey can keep on his pace, but we need to help him a little bit. He's going to see more double and triple teams here eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Joseph Osai has played a little bit better than maybe I expected him to this season. But and Sam Hubbard is starting to come on a little bit more. But no one's really giving Trey any of that extra help that we need to kind of balance him out. And I don't want to take anything away from him. He's been a fantastic player this season. I love watching him play. But you need more than one dude, especially if your goal is to make some noise in the playoffs once you're actually in the playoffs. It's not just getting there. It's trying to win a game or 2 or more. You kind of need somebody else to really develop into that. And maybe it is Myles Murphy. He looked great at the end of last season. He was starting to come along, and he's still kind of maybe ramping up from recovering from his injury. We'll see. If he can regain some of that form, that'd be huge for us if he can actually be that complement that we need.
Right.
Staying on the defensive line, Mark, you've covered the Bengals both electronically and in print. On a team where you have a guy like Sam Hubbard, a local guy, a local hero, everybody loves Sam, everybody respects him. But the numbers have shown out he's really, that side of the line is really not getting any pass rush, and teams seem to be also not so shy about running right at him anymore. Between him and Sheldon Rankins, at what point during a season do you just absolutely pull the plug on it and say, we got to try something different, we got to try something better? And to this point, Sheldon Rankins, he's had one good game in the last year, and that was against us last year, and I guess that was enough to sign him to a massive contract. I'd have rather just given DJ Reader another $1 million or 2 more and roll the dice. He'd have been ready. But when do you pull the plug on those guys and say, you know what, we can't do any worse, we're going to let the kids play?
I don't know that they've got enough depth to really pull the plug on him completely, right? At least a guy like Sam Hubbard, you're going to hope that he can start to round back into some sort of serviceable form. And absolutely, if he can get some help and he's not playing as many snaps as he had been, that'll be big for him too. Let him be a rotation guy. He doesn't need to be playing 80% of the snaps, especially, as he's got some years on his career now. But he could still be a valuable help for this team. You don't want to completely just pull the plug on the guy, right? Because he can still give you a little bit of that juice, and there's just not enough other guys to really turn to. And I think that's probably a little bit of the problem. If somebody else could take that, like beat him out for those snaps, that would be awesome. I would love to see it and let him be just more of a locker room guy and a mentor to some of these younger kids. But nobody's really seeming to pull away with it. There are guys that have had great opportunities. What better opportunity for somebody like Joseph Osai those first 4 games when Myles Murphy wasn't around? Sam Hubbard, and that's the other side of Sam Hubbard. You never know how healthy the guy is. I mean, the fact that he popped up on the injury report at all was shocking to me last week, because he's a guy that just walks around with half of his body falling apart and never ending up on the injury report in any manner. So he's got to fight through a lot too, that Sam Hubbard.
Yeah. So we're going to jump back and forth here, Mark. I think it went unnoticed. I want to make sure we talk about it again. I want to talk about 2 players on the offense. I felt so good for Chase Brown finally getting an opportunity, getting those carries and having a 100-yard game. And every time he touched the ball, you just felt that he could break it every damn time. And to see Mike Gesicki have the game that he did, and the awful performance of the Gritty in the end zone. But talk about those 2 guys, man. It's important if we're going to be successful, we're going to make it to the playoffs this year. These guys got to stay healthy. Mike Gesicki and Chase Brown have to be there.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're going to start to run out of playmakers, especially if T. Higgins might be missing another week here. You need the dudes that are going to be touching the ball a lot to really step up and make plays. And Mike did exactly that. And the fact that it was just such a tough break in that first game that he didn't come down with that touchdown, because that really would have flipped the Patriots game. It would have really given him a lot more momentum at the start of this season. But, I was glad to finally get to see him do the Gritty. Getting him to see it twice. The team needs little morale bumps like that,
right.
Those little sparks that can kind of bring some joy and happiness back to this team outside of Joe Burrow, let everyone else have some moments. And for Chase Brown too, he had to shoulder such a much higher load. I know he got a little dinged up towards the end of that game, but it was great to see him have some success. I know he had a high usage rate in college. He logged a lot of touches in college, so it's not completely foreign to him, but you still like to see him really have that success, especially with the run game not always flourishing at times this season. So the fact that he was able to put up a lot of yards and be such a good counter weapon for that passing game was huge to see going forward.
Yeah. Tom?
When you envision this team going forward, we're already potentially into next year. What big moves would you like to see made? Who would you like to see maybe say, you're not part of the solution, you're not part of getting to and winning the Super Bowl? And what type of player do you want brought in?
I mean, yeah, that's a great question. I kind of feel like if there's not an answer that really presents itself well, you've got to look at defensive end, right? Like, personally, I think I would have given Trey Hendrickson a little bit more guaranteed money and kind of given him an extra year on his contract, keep him around. I feel he's still playing at such a high level, but you do need another person opposite of him. So I thought they might add an edge in right at the trade deadline. They didn't get one. And if somebody doesn't really step up, whether it's Myles Murphy, whether it's Osai, and you end up having to bring him back, I know they're kind of missing Cam Sample's efforts there too, but that's not enough, right? Trey needs somebody else on that side. At the same time, you also kind of are missing that interior pass rush that we thought we were getting with Sheldon Rankins. I mean, it can be tough to watch. I wish he had a different number. I hate seeing 98 just getting washed out of plays in the middle of that defense when you're used to seeing a much different outcome in previous seasons. Hopefully when we're talking about the rest of this season too, hopefully he starts to make some impact plays, because he was paid the money to make some impact plays and give you a little bit of that juice. But I think it all starts on the defensive line. I know that some people would like to see some different safety options, because that feels like the new tight end for the defense, where it's just going to be a new crew every year, apparently. But I would go heavy on the defensive line. I don't know that people are ready for that conversation either, but I feel like the interior of the offensive line too, you're going to have to upgrade at some point, especially when you've got 2 great tackles. Like getting some guards, some improved play there would be huge for that offense. And I mean, you're going to have to draft a receiver pretty high too at this point. Like I'm still on I've not mentally gotten to that place of just picturing T. Higgins on a different team. Like I don't want to look at the numbers. And of course it doesn't make sense to pay 2 receivers a ton of money, but I still want it to happen. I still want to watch Joe Burrow throwing touchdowns to T and Jamar for the next, 3 or 4 seasons. That would be great. But in that absence, I don't know that they've got enough on this current roster for you not to think seriously about making either a splash at receiver or spending, a top 100 pick on a receiver.
Yeah. I tell you, let's go to that offensive line again. I do want to talk about the job that Mims has done at right tackle as a rookie. He's done a hell of a job. I mean, a hell of a job, guys. He's playing lights out.
Yeah, it's fun to see. It's fun to see because this is a draft class that I think is going to be a pretty good one after a few that weren't stellar. But man, it does feel like this one's got a lot of potential. But then you look at some of these things that are happening. Jermaine Burton had a lot of red flags about character stuff, and now he's gotten, he cost the team with this past week and missing the meetings and hasn't been able to get on the field like they expected. Eric All was somebody that came with his own red flags about injury history, looked phenomenal, and then suffered a really tough injury. Chris Jenkins kind of had the rap of not being a nose tackle, not being the greatest fit for a second-round pick for what this team needed this season. And that has lived up to kind of that expectation at times. And the knock on Mims was his lack of experience and how that could hurt his development. So the fact that he didn't fit necessarily what people said was the mold of him coming into that draft, and that he's been able to kind of exceed that and look like, in my opinion, maybe up there with Joe Alt, probably the best offensive tackle in this draft class, which was loaded with good offensive line players. But I think the Bengals got a little lucky with Mims falling to them where he did. And right now, he's looking like the right tackle of the future. He's looking like a foundational piece on this offensive line. And having him and Orlando Brown out there together, gosh, that is just so refreshing to see after some of the offensive lines we've seen Joe Burrow try and play behind.
Yep. In Orlando Brown, I did not get a chance. I was actually down at Stamina. The Bengals practice tonight on a short week. They practice tonight at 6:30. Jermaine was on the field on time, everybody. So he was there. He was practicing.
He was not at the slot machines tonight.
Not at the slot machines. He was good to go. He wasn't in bed sleeping. I did not get a chance because we couldn't watch the rest of the practice from where we were on an event I was at. I didn't see, was Orlando Brown on the field tonight, Tom? Or did they say?
My understanding was he was not going to practice.
Okay. Well, I think that's critically important come Thursday, guys. Orlando Brown has to be in the field.
I think he was listed as limited today, which would be a small upgrade for him. Especially with T still not practicing in any shape, I guess. But yeah, you're right. That's critical. And I hope that he'll be ready to go. And I don't know, coming into this too, I'm kind of surprised that T has not gotten bumped up to the limited as well. Just the way they were talking about his injury, I kind of thought it was more of a day-to-day thing and it's turning into a week-to-week thing. I don't know what's going on at these practices that is just taking guys out left and right. Zach Moss probably out for the season from a practice injury. T. Higgins could miss his third game. Let's lighten up these practices a little bit.
Let's talk about it. Unsung hero. I mean, who has kind of filled in as needed, where needed on that offensive line, and has done a serviceable job. Man, Cody Ford has been playing some good football, guys.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with Cody Ford is you're not noticing him a ton. You're not seeing oh gosh, now Joe's getting pressured again because Cody Ford's dropping the ball over here, and that's huge, especially because that is a drop off. It's not like you're replacing somebody that's not good, right? It's not like you're going from an average guy to a mediocre guy. You're going from an elite left tackle to Cody Ford, and the fact that he has kind of held up. He's not going to give you the same level of play, but for a reserve, man, he stepped in pretty well. I mean, I'd much rather see some more Cody Ford than some Jackson Carman, and I'll take that any day.
Yep. Tom, you want to finish off with one more before we let him go?
Mark's a dad. I got two questions for him. First on that, as a football fan, when you're home with your kids, your daughters, do you have to fight for the remote when football's on, or is it just leave dad alone in his man cave? He's going to watch some football.
It's a real battle. It's something that we've had to navigate, my wife and I, because my wife is a huge Bengals fan too, that's refreshing to have in a relationship standpoint. But you hit Sunday and it's now both parents are completely checked out. If we're not at the game, if we're at home, it's we'll sneak away to the basement. and just try and barricade ourselves down there and just let total chaos reign upstairs. That's kind of the way you have to go about it. And just, you open that door after 3 hours and you hope that they're all still kicking and that there's no blood on the ground and that there's no broken glass on the couches or any of that sort of stuff. And so far, so good. They've been able to survive that. I don't think that they want to be down here with us when we're watching the game. They'll hear some words maybe that they're not used to hearing in their school settings. And I'm talking about my wife too. And that's not me. That is her letting them fly. But yeah, we try and escape from them as best we can.
I know, Mark, Tom introduced you earlier. You kind of know you're a huge Bengals fan, but kind of let everybody know what you're a nationally touring comedian right now, right? You've got some shows coming up. Tell everybody about yourself, man. It's real great. We got a bunch of great national comedians. We got a local guy, Harrison. We got Gary Owen. We got Mark. We got all these great guys from Cincinnati traveling the country. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm a stand-up comedian, so I have to get on the road a lot. I was just in Nashville last night filming a set for Nate Bargatze's company and a big project that they've got working. And it's a great scene. Go Bananas Comedy Club is one of the great clubs in America. So it's got a great reputation, and that kind of is the central point of the comedy scene locally. And I started there before moving to New York City for 5 years and doing stand-up out there. And then really working the road a ton. So it's fun because, you get to go all over the place. Last month I was in Las Vegas and Atlanta. And then this month I was just in Nashville, and I've got Virginia, Seattle, and Michigan coming up later this month. Ooh. And it's fun to go all over the country telling jokes. Like it's a fun way to make a living. I've worked in sports media. I've done that before, and that's a fun job too. You get to a point, there were times where it's like, man, I've got to come up with another hot take. I just want to be a fan. I don't want to have to be somebody that's objective or dealing with a lot of the boring stuff. And I just want to enjoy the game. I don't want to make it my job. And so I think that's been fun for me to be the other side of the sports media game. And it's been fun doing the podcast with Paul this year and kind of getting back into some of that stuff. But for me, yeah, there's no better feeling than being on stage, entertaining a huge group of people in a different city with just letting people laugh for an hour and a half and kind of forget what they've got going on at home. So, and I've got a bunch of stuff out there if people want to check it out. I have a dry bar comedy special out there called The Dad Jokes, which you can rent or watch that. I think most of that might be on their YouTube now. I've got comedy on Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all that kind of stuff. A YouTube special that came out last year, shot at Go Bananas. And, if you're Sirius XM people, I'm on channel 97 all the time. So there's plenty of places to check out Mark Chalifoux.
Yeah, well, hey, brother, we appreciate you making time for us tonight, especially on election night. I know you're so excited. Actually, you probably wanted to stay away from the election stuff.
I know. I'm much more concerned with Thursday night than Tuesday night.
That's right. That's right, brother. That's right. Well, brother, we appreciate your time. It means a lot you coming on, man. Let's stay in touch, man, and hope we got to get this dub this Thursday night, buddy.
Absolutely. Hopefully. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a ton.
Thanks, buddy. See ya. Sorry, Tom, I put you off there real quick. Man, right. I hadn't heard from him in a while, dude. When he came on, I was like, oh shit, I know exactly who he is when I saw him. So good to hear him. Good stuff. Knows his stuff. Keeps up on the Bengals as usual. And
I had no idea, man. I remember when he was working with Mo Egger. I had no idea he made Mo Egger.
Yeah, well, Mo's going to find out about this.
Oh, I'm surprised we haven't already heard about it.
Yeah. But, so real quick, guys, just real quick, let's talk about a couple things going on here. The Nashville tailgate there's going to be another massive crowd. I think last year we had, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think close to 2,000 people. It was a sold out tailgate down in Nashville. Make sure you grab your tickets for that December Nashville tailgate. And also Robert and the West Coast Bengal crews out there are doing a huge meet and greet Saturday night, the 16th out in Los Angeles. And from 6 to 12, Corey Dillon, and there's a number of other, actually, I think I got another graphic here. There's a number of Bengal players that are going to be there. Let me get that real quick, and I'll read these off to you guys. But there is going to be a huge crowd there. Corey Dillon, TJ Hushmanzada, Willie Anderson likely, Achilles Smith, Darnay Scott, Joe Kelly, David Dunn, Adrian Ross. There might be more. We got some other calls out. But we appreciate Robert finding a great location out there, kind of organizing this. We're partnering with him, helping him with this stuff. So We appreciate those guys out there working their butts off, man. It's going to be a fun meet and greet out there on the West Coast. You'll see some links, some shared. You'll get an email from us if you're on our email distribution list, and it'll be posted on all of our social media platforms. So if you're going out to LA, make sure you drop in and hang with us. There's very limited amount of space in there. I think it's only $10 to get in. I think there's a VIP area for $40, but it's only $10 to get in. The proceeds are going to a charity that I think Robert's wife is on a board on or works with or something like that. But more information to come about that. But if you're going out to LA, let's make sure we have a good time. And if you're going to Baltimore Thursday, I'm not going. It's Church's birthday. I'm not going to make it. I got a meeting Friday morning as well. Tony and Brandon and the crew are going to be hanging out like we do every single year pregame at Pickles Pub. Don't laugh at the name. It's a great spot. It's really close to the stadium, a couple blocks away. But it's a great spot to hang out, indoor, outdoor. Great food, cold beers, the whole 9 yards. You'll see several hundred Bengal fans hanging out there Thursday pregame. So make sure you join Tony and Brandon and everybody else that's going out. Tom, what do you want to finish on here? This Thursday night, man, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm cautiously optimistic, but I like Joe's attitude right now. Just the way he's talking, he's getting these guys ready.
The most dangerous Bengal to play is a wounded Bengal to play, and I think that's what they are from their pride. I think they're mad about the last game.
Yep.
And I do know that they will give everything they got. And you said Jermaine Burton's out there.
He was out there practicing today. Yep, 6:30.
Maybe he's got a role, and maybe he's got something to prove. So, help us win, and a lot of sins can be forgiven. But thank you for joining us tonight. We know it's a very busy night, not just in Greater Cincinnati, but all around the country. Thank you for Jamie for watching the polls in Canada, and for James for helping count the ballots in Kentucky. And democracy lives on, and hopefully the Bengals playoff hopes will continue to live on, and we get a W in Thursday night.
That's right. And regardless of who wins this damn election, if they announce it tonight or if they announce it tomorrow, if they announce it tonight, the sun's coming up tomorrow. Everything's going to be good. Life will move on. It's never as bad as people say it's going to be on both sides of this damn thing. So we appreciate you spending a little bit of Election Tuesday with us here and Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. And we appreciate you guys being with us. And, man, let's get this dub Thursday. Wherever you're watching that game at, make sure you're loud and proud wherever you're at. So we love you guys. Thanks again. Hoo day, everybody.
Hoo day.